side of the hair. So the base color of this is a really rich red, which is 6-stroke 6-6
in the ref permanence.
From the ref permanence, with the red corrector added in.
Yeah.
And then the ref lightener with just 10 volume as a very kind of fine weave that was scattered through the hair. But the difference in this is the toning that was added in, and as the hair dries, you'll see more, is that we use two of the direct colors, almost like in a zigzag formation. So the top and the very underneath has the red of the direct colors. And in the middle, we mix the red and the yellow together to get an orangey tone. So as this dries, you'll see a lot of red and orangey shades coming out of there on the red base. So it's a unique kind of way of using the directs as toners, but it really kind of makes this red sparkle. I mean, a beautiful red is a beautiful red, but then adding dimension to that beautiful red really kind of makes a difference. So I thought I'd explain that before we began so that you could understand that, you know, when the hair dries, you'll see these different kind of tones coming out. The haircut that she has at the moment is a swing. So a lot of our kind of more classic clients have the swing barb going. And what I thought we'd do is kind of change that up, shorten the perimeter. You know, as it's getting into spring, into summer, we are going to have more clients, I think, this year going for shorter haircuts. There's a lot more being shown in different magazines. You know, a lot of the international hair magazines are showing a lot more shortcuts. And then some of our fashion magazines are actually featuring short haircuts too, which is kind of nice. I'm going to be going in primarily with my razor to work the perimeter and the interior. But I'm also going to show you a few tricks using texturizing shears as well to take weight away and to build that kind of nice, versatile, shakeable interior to the haircut. So to begin with, I'm going to start at the sides over the ears and establish a length around this area that I think will be a good starting point. A lot of clients don't really want to have, you know, a severe kind of short at the side. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hold that whole section down, coming in just below the top of the ear, and using my blade, I'm going through the outside edge of the haircut, almost like my razor is a pencil sketching the outside line. So you'll see that I'm leaving it longer towards the front, and we have a nice little trendy tail there, look. So let's put a perm rod in that and see how it comes out. No, I'm kidding you. Let's take that off. There we go. So a really nice kind of forward dropping line. So showing some of the ear at the back here. What I'm going to show you is a little tip for taking some weight away from underneath here. And you can do this with bobs too. Rather than going through the top and taking the surface away, I'm going to put my blade underneath and slightly curve the blade upwards and scoop underneath, gently releasing some of the weight from the underside of the haircut, which then helps create a bevel. So you can see how that now kind of bevels rather than dropping flat and having a kind of a weight on the very bottom. I'm going to do that one more time and take a bit more weight away there. Blade underneath that section, scooping around, coming through and taking out some weight. You can see these are pieces of hair. It's not like a big chunk of hair. So it's something that takes a little bit of practice to get that down, but it really makes the difference to the curve and the finish of the hair. Continuing with this side, you know, we already have like the bob shape at the back, which, you know, is going to go shorter. But for the minute, what I want to do is just kind of create a bit of a blend behind this ear. So I'm going to hold that whole section down. I'm going to go in with my blade, not holding this traditionally. You know how usually we're taught to put our finger in here and have this like this. I mean, I was taught to do that too, but what happens with that, that puts a lot of pressure on your wrist as you move in, whereas releasing this and holding it as a pen gives you complete freedom with your wrist. And then, you know, obviously as hairdressers, we have to watch out for carpal tunnel and everything like that. So with this, I'm sketching from the short point over the ear that I've just created, cutting through the edge of this hair as if I was going through a piece of paper from my top right-hand side corner down to my bottom left-hand side corner. So what we're doing as far as joining this together, it's almost like one dot to another dot and blending. This is still going to be too long at this moment in time, really, because we've still got the bob shape at the bottom, but at least I've kind of got a connecting point around the ear already established, so that when I start doing my interior, I don't really have to worry about this area too much. Okay, so moving over to the opposite side. Want to establish a longer length on this side, obviously, because as your angle drops forward, it needs to get longer. So choosing the point just directly behind the ear, keeping the head up nice and straight. Working my blade, again, like a pen, from behind the ear, pointing the blade forwards and downwards. So we're coming from our high point to our low point. And by holding this hair between my fingers very firm, I'm able to remove a larger amount of hair to begin with and start getting my line. You see how nice and clean that is? Taking the next section of hair, which is towards the front, swinging that over the eye and pulling it forwards, pulling it sort of back towards my section, because that's where the hair's going to lay. It's not going to lay kind of obviously over her face. And continuing my angle. And obviously some of this is going to be coming off, because if on this underneath section of the hair. So again, the perfect way to control that is to take that section, take your blade, turn the blade up and almost towards the hair, yeah? And then at the angle that your haircut is, so you see how the blade is angling, the angle that my haircut is longer towards the front. I'm going to then scoop under that hair and take away weight from underneath.
Chris, with this, what would you say as far as tension and pressure that you're using whenever you're doing the underneath scoop?
The tension that I'm putting on the hair is making sure that really, you know, the hair is not going to fall from between my fingers. So there's quite a high tension on the hair I'm holding, because it's shorter here, so I need to kind of hold it. The pressure that I'm putting on with the blade, at the beginning it's strong because I want to take away from the inside of the hair more, and then as I scoop the razor around, it gets a little less and a little lighter, but it is tracing the inside of that haircut. So I am taking out, you know, a fair amount of hair.
Right.
But that's my second go at this. I mean, the second time at going in, and just now, that's just now starting to lay in softer.
So almost like one finger pressure versus 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I'm noticing here is, well, I've got a little jump between this and this. So I'm going to go through here. And at this moment in time, rather than waiting till later, I'd rather kind of clean up as I go along. I'm going to use my blade on top here and start cleaning that line up between my fingers. Obviously, if you're using an open blade, you don't want to do this. You know, you'll probably still have to pull the hair down and cut it in a downward motion, but I like to clean up between the fingers there because I think you have a good, as you pointed out, a good pressure, holding the hair actually between fingers like this and having your base of your finger to actually trace this out a little bit.
You're working at like a stationary blade of a scissor.
Yep. And it's worth kind of cleaning up as you go along, I always say, because, if you leave things, it throws off the line till later, and then you kind of always got to come back and clean up anyway. So what I'm going to do with this little area here is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go underneath, just take this away, underneath this front section, on line with the line that we've cut already. I'm going to go in here and just scoop away some of the hair from underneath. There you go. Take some of that away. Take some more weight away from the front. And again, some of this length is coming off. So really, I'm kind of showing you this. If you were doing a one length haircut and you wanted to have a bevel towards the front, this would be the way to do it.
What I love is this collapses the interior, but still keeps all the weight and strength of your exterior line and shape.
Yeah, it keeps it. Yeah, it just softens it all in, So I mean, that now it has kind of a softer bevel that if that hair's falling back, it has a place to fall to, Whereas if this is one length, it tends to always just kind of keep falling forward. Now that hair will curve in and follow, the face shape, the same as this side is doing. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Okay. So we've got to work the same on this side behind the ear. And the way I'm going to do that, exactly the same way, holding this whole section down. And even if the hair was cut into a square bob through the back, I mean, this does have some graduation because it was a graduated bob already, but even if the bob was square at the back or one length, I would still use this technique. I would just first give myself a baseline, so an outline at the back, to know where I'm cutting to. Again, cutting from the top corner to the bottom corner, opposite sides, and making sure that we have a kind of a blend through. I would say it's better to leave too much length to begin with and then go back if you need to kind of cut some more off, because it's a gradual thing. You've got the choice that way. See, I think for both of us, we've been kind of traditionally trained with hair cutting, but what you also learn with hair cutting is, once you know the rules, you can kind of also break the rules a little bit. And that's what makes it interesting, to be able to go in and maybe shatter a shape or kind of create some weightlessness. Now you see at the bottom now, I've got like this almost like a square perimeter because I've taken off the swing corners. So what we have to establish is a weight area in the inside of the hair. And again, I'm kind of doing this so it's multiple haircuts in one for you rather than just one haircut. If I were to do now a haircut that is heavy on the inside and then lighter on the outside, so we've kind of got a more layered in effect back here, but someone wants a weight area on the inside because a lot of people want that kind of curve. This is how I would do that. It's not going to end up that way because we are going to layer the inside of the hair. I'm just doing this as an add-on for you guys to get as much as you can from this class.
Nice hip pocket.
Hip pocket. So what I'm doing, I'm going below the crown, but way above the occipital. So the occipital's here, the crown's here. So I'm going in this area that's almost like the curve of the head and taking a section across. Starting off with what I can hold between my fingers. So I'm making sure I'm not dragging hair in. And then I'm going to hold this hair down and get an idea of where that curve would sit, So then directing the hair out completely by holding the hair out. When you cut a blunt line on this and it drops, it's going to have a graduated edge. If I held the hair down flat, it would have a very square edge, because anything you hold out and cut will be graduated. Anything you hold down and cut will be very blunt. So holding this hair out and establishing an edge, and the action that I'm using with the razor is stroking up and down on the very bottom edge of the hair. So if I show you what I've left in my hand, which is a more serrated edge rather than a blunt edge, that's also what's left in the hair. We've got a soft serrated weight area, yeah? And then working that through, the next section would be, again, just as much as you can hold between your fingers, I will be taking in a little piece of that middle section and taking in a piece of the hair that we cut at the side. So that's here and that's here. And lining my fingers up between the two, see that's that piece. And that is that piece just falling out of my finger here. And you can see how I'm able to see those fall out of my fingers. So I know this line is the connection between the two, holding the hair out. And again, softly stroking the blade up and down through that section. So it's a serrated edge rather than a straight edge, linking my side into my middle back. If I lift that hair now, you can actually see the separation of the haircut. Yeah. Working through to the opposite side. And you can see how this, I'm using the razor and it's really kind of helping me speed through this, because we're not only cutting a shape on the inside of the hair, but we're also cutting a soft shape. So it's almost like we've got the cut and the texturized cut going at the same time. So my middle section, and just get this clearer, my ear, show you, middle section is there, my ear section is here, working the blade in a serrated edge. It's still a straight line, but it's a serrated straight line. Working through, working through. So now we have a weight area on the inside of the haircut that if you decided that's what the client was going to finish with, that part is complete. The only thing we have to do is blend through the area underneath. And the way I would do that would be having my baseline cut, whatever length that base is going to be, and then from the interior to the exterior, so from the inside length to the outside length, I would do a blend. Joining point A to point B.
And you're directing outwards, more of a diagonal?
Yeah. So directing the hair out, keeping, when you cut through the hair in a vertical manner, so this is a vertical section, and even though I'm cutting the hair on a slight diagonal, the vertical section keeps the hair falling really soft. If I was to try and do this horizontally with horizontal sections, it would give me a lot of cut lines, which wouldn't be soft. As you can see, let me show you this already, this middle section. That is falling seamlessly from that weight in the middle compared to here at the side where we still have the length underneath. Yeah? So it's a great way of establishing interior weight area and then coming through and taking the length from underneath. I think a lot of people will work on the underneath first, not really knowing where the inside's going to lay. I like to know where the inside length, this weight area is going to sit first, and then work from that so that I can really get a nice collapse at this bottom part of the haircut.
Yeah, I think that's so smart, finding out your interior movement, shape, length before you cut the outside and getting stuck with it.
And it gives you a guide. It gives you an interior guide rather than vertically kind of cutting through and going, I'm not sure where this is going. It may be too heavy, it may be too light, so you have your weight line in there to begin with, and then work through from that point, just taking the length away down into your shorter perimeter. So guys, I hope that makes sense. And I know it's kind of a lot to take in on one go, but you can see that using the blade here, really, you can kind of, as you go along, if you see anything, you can kind of point in with the blade and just kind of, you know, soften something in. That's what I love, using the blade for that. You know, I mean, yes, you can soften in with a pair of shears. We know that. You really can. Point cutting, and I'm a big fan, if you're using scissors, of actually creating points in the hair rather than keeping it just a blunt edge. See how this is drying? It's still looking a bit heavy through that area, but I am going to be taking away some of that hair, so I'm still going to leave that. If I was leaving this one length, I would probably hit that just one more time. In fact, let's do it. Come on, let's scoop that one more time. Blade underneath, scooping around. So again, take a bit more out. That's why I actually like to let the hair dry a little bit, so you can see how the weight of the haircut, especially if you're doing something that's one length, because you can end up looking very heavy and very flat.
The silhouette of the shape is gorgeous, though.
Yeah, it has a nice head shape already, doesn't it? Yeah. And again, just working through the opposite side now. I've got my sections on this side to kind of still cut. So holding the hair out from the interior, cutting down to the perimeter, just cutting off anything that's in between. See the weight here. So I always like to find my short part, let it pop out of my fingers, so I'm not cutting that out, and then work down to the baseline, the final perimeter. And here, this is kind of like, you know, as you're doing around the ear, this is a little kind of personalizing that you're doing. You're kind of sculpting it so that the hair fits around the ear and then into the neckline. You know, some people have necklines that don't allow you to cut the hair shorter, but what I find I do a lot, and I'll get someone's permission, I'll be like, hey, I want to show you this hairline at the back where it jumps into the middle, and you've got hair this side, you've got hair this side, and you've got hair coming down the middle. You've actually got 3 lots of hair trying to sit in a space that's really designed just for 1 lot of hair. So what I want to do is take away that hair underneath and let the hair on top sit over it, so it gives you the illusion that that hair is falling flat and that you've got a perfect hairline. And people are usually very open to that. But I mean, it does mean you've got to go in and take off the hairline underneath to allow the hair above it to sit in that space.
Right. You know, because there was a great question that came in asking is it more stationary or traveling guide for as you're going through, because you are traveling throughout the hair with each new zone into the next versus directing everything into the same space.
Oh, yes. So really, everything is held out directly. So it's directly from the length that we created on the inside to the length that we have on the perimeter and cutting straight through. So everything is really a slightly diagonal vertical section. So, you know, because
travel side to side.
Yeah. Because the head curves back here, you want to go with it. So in the middle, it's kind of pretty straight. Yes. And then as you get round to the back, so I'm not using any section as a guide. What I'm using as a guide is my interior length and my exterior length, and just blending those two together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we're following the contour.
Yeah. We haven't built up any weight inside the hair. What we've done is we've gone through from the inside to the outside, and, you know, cut a straight line in between, and, you know, just see how that hair lies. So at this point, say for instance, this was our finished haircut at the back, and we have the weight on the inside and we have the softness coming down below. This is when I would shift from my razor into my texturizers, and my texturizers are a blade and the comb. These have become my best friend. They really have, because not only for finishing haircuts, but for actually working in the areas of weight that you want to reduce down. And this, I know this is something that you and I kind of have gone through a lot, hasn't it?
Yes.
You know how, especially with men, when men have that pelt of hair around the outside of the perimeter, but then they're a bit thin on the inside, you know, and having that weight here makes this looks thicker. So one thing that I find is really great to do here, using the blade on the underside, go in and take out vertical pieces through that weight area.
And you're going inside of the haircut versus just on the outside surface.
The blade is going right in. And if I move that hair out of the way, you'll see that it's resting right on the inside. It's almost resting against the scalp.
Yes.
But it's pointed out towards the top. Yeah. So as we're going in, we're taking these vertical slices that create a natural bevel and softness to that weight area. Yeah. And it's one of these things that you will probably use so much once you kind of have done this a couple of times and have confidence with it, because we're kind of trained to go horizontally, you know? But I always think we've just done everything vertical through the haircut, and then we go in with a horizontal blade, we're going to put horizontal scissor marks into something that's already soft. Yeah. Doing it this way, you can vertically go in and soften out the edges even, you know, like where this hair looks heavy here, I can go in here and soften out that hair on the inside of the haircut so it just lays in nicer.
Well, what I love about this technique that, and of course I've started to borrow and use it in my way, it's you're cutting it from the inside. With your texturizer, so often people will soften the edges of the haircut, but then eventually what happens is it starts to almost contradict each other from the weighted interior to the outside softness.
But I think just texturizing the ends of the hair also makes the ends fuzzy. Yeah. And the one thing that clients hate is when you get that fuzz going on the hair. So, you know, I like to work with the inside of the hair, taking the weight away where the weight starts from, which is on the inside of the hair. The weight isn't on the outside of the hair. It's not on the ends of the hair. It's actually in here. So if you're taking weight away or blending a weight line or a weight area, take it away from the point that it starts rather than the point that it finishes. And if you look at that side already, just the way that kind of flows, it just has a softness to it.
Yes.
Whereas this side, you know, it's nice and everything, but it still looks chunky. Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully that's something that for anyone that kind of is doing any kind of interior blending, any kind of blending that you want to, just take that weight away or that image of heaviness, blending point, working through. And this is kind of more the speed that I would do this in the salon. And again, it's a visual thing. So, you know, you're looking to see where the weight lays on the hair. If it's a little heavy around the perimeter or you want to soften that perimeter, same thing, vertical, going in and taking these pieces out. And you can really kind of piece out the hair nicely and give a beautiful soft hairline. And that's laying in so nice there.
What I feel that it really, you're allowing from the inside to the outside a direction of the way that the hair is going to move and where the options happen. I do this a lot now within the fringe for those that want a softness, but they still want to keep the heaviness of the length.
It honestly can be used within the whole haircut. I mean, if I just shake that now, just a little shake, where that weight is on the inside of that back hair, I mean, really, the weight's still there, but it just has this really beautiful kind of blend through. Yeah. And if you compare it to what we got going on the sides here, which we haven't cut that way, that looks so heavy still, you know, and so bobbish. Yeah. Yeah. So that back area is now kind of complete. If there's any areas, you see how this still looks just a little kind of like there's some hair right behind the ear. What I would do there, and remember, pair of texturizers is one blade. The comb stops it from cutting the same as a regular pair of scissors. But if you keep hitting the same spot, this will cut like a regular pair of scissors. So rather than putting these down and picking up another pair of scissors, if I keep hitting the same spot, it actually becomes just a regular blade. So I can actually cut length off just by hitting that same spot, and the length's gone. There you go, a lot softer. Okay, so switching back now, if this was being left a one length haircut, I would go through the whole perimeter in the same way and cut through, the same as we did the back in the vertical manner. Every vertical piece we take out creates a space for the rest of the hair to sink into and allows you to keep the hair one length, but those spaces help sink that hair in. It makes sense, doesn't it? If the hair's solid like that, it's just going to lay solid. But if we put spaces in there, when the hair falls, it will fall in and curve. So that's what I would do if we're leaving this one length. We're not leaving this one length at the moment, but I wanted to share that with you if it was, because a lot of people love this kind of like one length feel through the hair. And sometimes, you know, we might even take out this whole section here and literally scissor over comb that hair.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
And leave this over the top. Oh, hello. So what I'm using, and I already kind of prepped the hair before we came on, I'm using the Ref leave-in conditioner. It's one of the things that I've actually grown to love. So I'm going to add a little leave-in conditioner just through this front section. What I like about it is it dries in nice. And when you come to style the hair, it has the moisture in there already. So
it looks amazing. Thank you, Ryan.
So at the moment we have this nice kind of almost, it's really a short bob haircut really, but it's cut as a short haircut through the back and sides. I want to give you a bridge through here now. The bridge is something that links the two sides together that creates a softness, okay? And again, this could be a really short haircut through the sides and you can still bridge a fringe in. It could be that she has like a full bang rather than the side part, but the side part is a bit trickier to do because it's not just a straight line. So that's what I want to show you today. If you were doing just a straight fringe, you know, your section would be just a straight fringe, yeah? So taking where our length is on the sides, I always say before you start any journey, know where you're going. And this is no different than when we're doing a haircut. So here on the side of the hair is where my final destination is, okay? So it's kind of like just inside of the temple. So if I show you where the temple is here, temple's round here. And rather than using this as my long point, which is part of the angle down the side, I'm coming a little further forward on this side. So we use some of the drop that we have. This section has been taken out. On the opposite side, I'm going to take out a smaller piece because there's not as much hair on this side and give myself my final destination on this side too. So making sure the hair that my final destination is just combed nice and flat on both sides and I can see where I'm going. Then over the part and usually through the middle of the eye, I will establish an interior guide because again, I like to give myself a dot from where I'm coming from, which would be here, to a dot where I'm going, a dot where I'm coming from, to a dot where I'm going. And it's just really a matter of joining the dots in. A lot of people kind of make this really kind of, you know, start doing this, start twisting the hair, start doing all sorts of, I'm like, cut the line and then soften it in, just to keep it simple, you know? It's like, why make it difficult? So what I'm doing here, I'm taking this section down. Think about this. If I cut this line like a straight line, just across, horizontal, I've then got to somehow curve that into this side and curve it into that side. So why make it difficult for yourself to cut a horizontal line here? If you know the hair's going to go in this direction on that side and that direction on this side, you are needing a V. You're needing a V to start that line off. So holding the hair directly out, I'm going to go through the middle and just separate the hair and start creating a dropped V. Picking up that section in the middle again. So I've got my guide, holding the hair flat between my fingers, starting on the short point in the middle and angling down so that we are creating the beginning of a V, an inverted V.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the long side, the journey is a bit longer. We've got to go all the way to this point here. So holding that section down flat, I can see where my short point is. I can see where the long length is. I'm going to hold the hair out and I'm going to use my razor as a link to blend the interior point to the exterior point. Because I've come to the point and not through it, when this joins that, it will link together. Right. If I cut through that outside length, I've created a completely different length to blend together, and I'm going to have to take some of my length off through the side. It's
fabulous.
Yeah.
And also, Chris, you're getting tons of compliment, and Paul actually shared that he loves listening to you because you bring a lot.
Okay, great.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. Yeah, that's lovely. You made me day. So on this side, the same thing.
She's ready for a Cosmo.
All right. That'd be nice, yeah. Could do the Cosmo too. What time is it? It's only 9:30 in the morning.
There's always time. There's always time.
But so I'm going to have to make do with a nice cup of tea instead. So holding the hair, you see that piece that just dropped out? I'm pointing the blade in the direction that I want to go. And I'm angling down to my final destination. Not cutting through my final destination, just angling to it. So we've managed to keep that little point on both sides. Yeah?
Gorgeous, yeah.
And now, you know, the perimeter of the hair will naturally want to flow outwards and want to flow outwards because we actually cut the interior to go in that direction. Yeah? So we've got a front interior to now blend an interior length too. This front interior is where we want it to be. And, you know, so far I haven't done any curving or blending or texturizing through that front yet. It's just a very blunt haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this part, I think, is probably one of the most interesting of the whole haircut because you can do this on any length, but it works so well on short hair. And I love doing short hair, but a lot of times, you know, if you do a really nice kind of neat haircut and then someone comes in and teases the crown to get the lift, it's kind of not the haircut for them, if you see what I mean. If you've done a really heavy interior and they have to go in with texturizing spray and kind of tease this to get lift here, then, you know, maybe having a lighter effect through the top would have been a better route to go. Yeah. Missed again, still leaving. So, and the reason I'm doing that, I'm keeping the hair misted so that it doesn't start pulling for the client. And, you know, the drier the hair gets, I think the quicker you go through your razor blades too. What I'm doing at this point is now picking up, you see where the length of that crown that I cut was? This, if you see, is where the occipital is, yeah, where it falls. And lifting that up, that's part of the curve of the back. So you can see that I've almost got a point through here, or it gradually gets longer, 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 and then it jumps to the front length. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of finding my point where that starts jumping, and between my fingers, I'm going to start blending a length together between that crown and my front short point. So this is working through to that section that I first started at the front, which was the beginning of the inverted V. So now we have something that travels from the crown all the way through to the very front, through the shortest point of the front perimeter. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this section as my stationary guide to begin every section radially around the head.
Okay.
And the reason we're doing that is because a radial section here is going to be a shorter distance because there's not as much length at the back, but a radial section from here to this is going to be a lot steeper. Yeah. So I can't cut everything, combing everything up, because what it's going to do, it's going to take too much weight away from this side of the head. It's going to make it collapse in too much. So very quickly, this water a little. Starting at the back here, I'm right-handed, and I always find, because I'm coming from the inside of the haircut to the outside of the haircut, if I stand on the right-hand side of each of my sections, it gives me the same effect all the way around. The reason I say that is I watched myself on video once doing this, and because when you're on camera, you have to make sure that the camera can see what you're doing. I actually made the mistake of cutting from the interior length to the exterior length on this side of the haircut. And then on this side of the haircut, I cut from the exterior to the interior. And of course, we got different effects on both sides. Because you're starting from that inside point, whenever you angle out, you're angling out with your elbow kind of being able to lift. You're doing it this way. See how you can't lift this elbow because it's holding the hair here, yeah? So trust me on this, if you're working from the inside of the haircut to the outside of the haircut, and you're right-handed, start on the right-hand side of the section. And if you're left-handed, start on the left-hand side of the section. And it will always work that you get equal layers all the way through. Doesn't matter what the length of the hair is. Short hair, long hair, medium length hair. Every time I pick up, I'm always finding my beginning point. See the beginning point? Mm-hmm. I'm angling out to my finish point and blending those 2 points together. So radially, from that beginning interior, which is not through the center of the hair, it's actually through the center of the parting, finding my short point and working out to my long point, and just blending point A to point B. And what we get is a really nice kind of soft flow through the inside of the hair. And you also know that you've gone through every single section of the hair and worked the 2 points together. So there shouldn't be any long pieces or weighty pieces or heavier pieces. Generally speaking, we do find the side that has more length ends up looking heavier because there's more length. And where you have more length, there's more weight. So, I'll show you a way of kind of working through that in a second. Again, now I'm working on the opposite side. So from the middle point that we did the inversion, you can see there that I've got a corner that I need to kind of take off. So blending those 2 points together. Point A on the inside, point B on the outside. Section behind that. Always finding my length on the inside here. You see, I could go from this and that would be a mistake, but look at that's the length right there on the inside of the haircut where the part is. I do find if anyone is going to lose themselves, it's doing the interior of the hair. But if you give yourself a guide through the middle of the hair or the middle of the haircut, that you always find is your interior length to begin with. It helps you keep on track. And I hope if nothing else from this class today, that little tip actually makes a huge difference to everybody, because I do find that, a lot of times it's the balance of the haircut, the inside balance that throws everything off. So finding that inside line and working out to your outside length is so important.
Thank you, Natalie. Natalie shared the great tips always from us both.
Oh.
Yes. Well, the details, it's because you're giving an overall look, Chris, but it's also like all of the hip pocket bit, all of the different ways to demonstrate it for different looks. So yeah, amazing.
Well, I mean, you can use the techniques that we showing in multiple ways. So I really kind of like to kind of give you that as we're going along. And, you know, from one haircut, you get many haircuts really. But if you have a look at this now, how much softer, even though we've still got weight to the outside of the haircut, but the inside has just got this softer kind of feel now. You can actually see if you let that kind of go, that it's a lot more shaky, softer, it kind of has more of a wearable kind of feel. I mean, I like the one length haircuts on someone, but they have to be willing to deal with that kind of heaviness. Whereas something like this, I think, has a lot more of a soft shake to it.
I know I use this reference a lot, but it's so Linda Evangelista.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to share with you now a way of reducing down, especially like we said, this side, which has got the length. This always appears bulkier, you know, than this side does, because there's more length. So, a few hip pocket tips on texturizing. You know, one of the things that, these are my favorite, and if you are getting one pair of scissors, just a regular texturizer is great. But if you can afford and you want to build your arsenal of equipment, a texturizer that's chunkier like this is an amazing way of debulking hair and giving texture to the hair, okay? So I'm actually going to swap to these because I want to share with you how you can kind of go through it and take some of that out. But by hitting the hair a few times with the texturizers, you can kind of get a similar effect. It's just quicker with these, yeah? So for finishing, looking at where the hair sits, and if you're wanting to kind of put some real kind of movable texture in here, making sure that you really don't go too much into the crown, but holding this hair out. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put the blade underneath and cut through. Blade underneath, cut through, blade underneath, cut through. What I've done there, I've created a long, medium, and short length pieces, long, medium, and short length pieces. So that will sink in a lot more, but it will give a shaky texture, okay? This next section, holding this out, and again, not going so much on the surface of the hair, so we want this surface of the hair to drop. Going through, going through, going through. It's at an angle. So we have long, medium, short, long, medium, short. Sorry, short, medium, long, through those sections, and quite a lot of hair coming out. But look how that melts and really kind of just works into the hair shape without taking it outside length off. Again, the temple area, you have to be careful of this because, you know, some people have got finer temples. So I'm just maybe going to do two sections on the inside here and just one here on the front and help that kind of sink in. And then when this hair falls over that hair, the spaces that we have created in there are allowing that hair to drop in and fall into that shape. I honestly and truthfully feel like I can take a little more from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to elevate that hair out, go through with my blade, cut, slide that hair out, and watch that condense in. This little area just here. And go in, close, in, close. See, I'm going from short to long, so we're making sure that the interior of the haircut follows the exterior and helps push it in the direction we want it to go. And how that now collapses in so much better than it was a minute ago. Yeah?
Yeah. We're continuing with that. It's a gorgeous classic that it's very quick and convenient. And I think to your point, it's ambiguous that it could be, the techniques can be utilized on anyone in multiple ways if you know why you're doing the technique.
So again, I'm continuing to cut some short interiors into, can you see how that short hair in there is going to then help push this longer hair over? And obviously, if someone has a lot of hair on the front hairline, you can get away with doing that. Mannequins have got a ton of hair. You know, a lot of people haven't got enough hair through the front to do that, but you can still use your fine texturizers, which don't take out as much hair. Now through here, you can see the difference already. how this is now laying in and has that shakiness to it and softness, how flat that kind of goes, and it kind of curves into the head, whereas this has that still bobbish kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
So through this side, I'm going to work in this section. Actually, let me change to my regular texturizer so you can see you can still get the effect of this. It's just not as time effective, you know, and I'm all about kind of changing the tools up and getting it time effective.
Well, funny, so that she can watch you cut hair all day.
Oh,
we should start a marathon.
Yeah, there you go. So went in a couple of times there, holding this hair out, going through, cutting in, cutting in, cutting in. And again, I'm holding the hair out and going in with the blade. So this isn't a horizontal, it's still going in perpendicular to the head underneath, and we're taking the weight out vertically. So it's something you can, the other thing you can do with this as well is you can also weave in and out. So if you're scared about taking too much, go in, go in, go in, maybe hit that 3 times and reduce the bulk down that way. That's something that I do find people are starting with texturizers to use the texturizers more a part of a haircut. Weaving in and out is kind of a safer bet than going in fully, but you'll find that as you work with the texturizers more, that really you get so much more confident to just go in and kind of cut the inside through. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to weave in and out the perimeter shape, and I'm going to follow the outline, and you see how that just makes that soft and melt. And then how visually this now looks a little heavy. So what you can do is go through that vertically and piece a little piece out, little peep. It'll help the skin peep through and help that melt in. And at this point, you're personalizing the hair. You're making it the client's own haircut. It's not just a generic haircut that they're getting. It's something that you're designing for them and them alone. Any pieces on this perimeter that you want to kind of soften down or take the weight out, you can go through and with the vertical blade first, comb on top, just kind of soften that in. And then one little tip from the crown area, and not the TV movie, the TV show, The Crown, but the crown of the head. If you have a client that, you know, does come in and she's kind of teased up some of the crown, which, you know, we have clients to do that. Rather than them having to go through teasing it, why not give them a little lift up here and allow them to have something that supports some body and some volume. That's got a little length there, look. Let's just take that down. There we go. So taking a section on the crown, I'm not going to use the hair on the top of the head. I'm going to go behind that top. So we look at this. This is the curve. This is where the curve of the head is. I'm going to hold that section, that whole section forward, right? And rather than going really deep with this, I'm going to weave in and out this back part of this section. And I'm going to go up about 1.5 inches from the root, close the scissor, up again, close the scissor, up towards the end, close the scissor. What I've done there, I've created a short, medium, and long supporting length for the hair that is in front of it. So when that hair comes back, we automatically get lift.
Yeah, amazing.
And, you know, if someone's got heavy hair, you can go one section below that and go down here too.
Will you even mock that out one more time?
Of course. So the section on the crown, where the curve is, I'm going to round that section out. Okay. Pull that hair forwards and then not on the surface, the front surface of the hair, but this back side, go in with my texturizer, weave in, weave in, weave in, weave in, about 1.5 inches up from the roots, close the scissor, up again, close the scissor, up again, close the scissor. And you close the scissor 3 times on the same length, which gives you 3 different lengths on the underside of the hair, that then when the hair on top falls over it, it automatically gives it. And when you blow dry this, I mean, you can get so much volume and lift with it because you create a different length inside, one supporting the other.
Yeah, perfect.
Again, through the front, if you want to create any kind of little windows of areas that you can see a little skin through, or give the hair direction. Remember, if you leave the length longer on the side that the hair's coming over to on the inside here, and actually go in and cut the hair shorter on where it's going to push, because short hair always pushes long. So where the blade goes in here, it's going to be short. Where it drops out, it's going to be longer. And that will allow the hair to push the hair over. And you see how now these are dropping in nice little soft pieces. It's not the weight's been taken out of there, the heaviness. It's also a great technique for curly hair, because if you think about it, what we've been doing, we've been working a lot through the perimeter of the haircut and taking the outside weight away. Usually with curly hair, it usually goes flat up here and wide on the side, almost like a pyramid. So taking the weight away from the outside, the way we have been with all our verticals and with our texturizing, takes that triangle effect away, and it allows the hair to sink back in again. I just think it has a softness to it, and a real kind of, it's elegant and yet it's soft. Working in again, working in, and really letting this fall beautifully.
But you've given it, and this is to everyone's point, the fact of that it's a classic, but all of the interior pieces, it's beautiful. That Miss Mannequin is going to pay all full price cut and blow dry for this.
Yeah.
It's all of the things.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, it's taken a classic shape and just allowing it to have a softness and a flirtiness to it. I think the haircut is very flirty and it's very kind of wearable, and you can see it's just drying itself. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's allowing itself to kind of dry. The thing I like about leaving a little length at the front as well is that for clients, they can do the little tuck and have, you know, the fringe kind of down, and this hair just tucked behind the ears like this, and it gets a completely different effect that way. You know, it's a really short looking haircut that way. Whereas leaving that length there, it leaves the versatility of still having the look of some length and softness. Because for some people, if they're going shorter from long, you know, they don't want to go severe around the ears and they don't want to go severe in the back. They still want to have a bit of softness. Yeah. This is a great way of introducing someone into something that's very quick and easy to style, but also has a soft look to it.
But also the versatility. I mean, the cutting session is versatile interiors, and I think from the beginning, Chris, what you've done is you started your interior shape moving to the exterior lines. You know, I mean, because it's sometimes instead of just cutting from outside base bottom into top, right? You change the identity of it into the short shape. But even just this front fringe alone, right? Yes. I mean, gorgeous.
And you know, again, I know that the curtain bangs are very, very popular. So taking the technique that I showed you here with the V, the short point going out, you would go in the middle and you would go out from that point, because creating the short will gradually get longer, which will sweep the hair into any length, you know? So it's a technique that you can transfer into any shape. And that's the interior of that perimeter shape. And again, even them working through the texturizers, either vertically or going through and weaving, you can create some short and long pieces on the inside of that fringe and have the interior push the exterior into shape as well.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Should we give her one more little spin around
course,
just so
yeah.
we can see?
And you see how nice and soft
The
that is.
silhouette, again, profile, the whole silhouette, all of it. Stunning.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Thank you, guys. That is beautiful.
Yeah, good. And, you know, I just want to mention before we kind of finish off there,